So my name is Sebastian Manzanera Angel. I'm a game UX UI designer. I was born and raised in Bogota, Colombia. Uh, I have been a UX designer for almost 6 years. From those 2 years, I was working within the video game industry, and I had the opportunity to work at a video game studio called Pickpock. During my time there, I worked on cool projects like HRCPA, Rival Stars Horse Racing, Super Monsters in My Condo, and Cluster Duck. Those are the games I've been working on. It's been a journey so far, and I'm thrilled and excited to be here at this Game UX with me, like to talk about something that's really close to my heart. In order to set the ground for what this talk is about, I want to talk. I want to tell a short story about what happened to Isabel. Isabel is a game narrative designer from Medellin, Colombia, and she recently acquired a Nintendo Switch and with it Animal Crossing New Horizons. So she boots the game, and Timmy and Tommy are the ones who are gonna welcome her, and they're gonna walk her through the first time user experience. They ask for her name, and they also ask for her birthday. They even ask for a picture, like a very cute way to set up the background for her to create her character. So the character creator opens up. This leads to her spending time creating her character because this is the person that's gonna represent her in the world. So far, so good. She seems happy. The game is hitting on the right spots if we talk about autonomy and immersion. Then Timmy and Tommy introduce seasons, and they want for her to experience the seasons the same way as she does in her real life. The only thing is, Isabella's a Colombian. She lives in South America near the equator, so we actually do not experience seasons that way. But that's not a problem. Actually, it's pretty interesting because they still emphasizes that they have both north and south hemispheres, so she can just choose an island that has the same seasonal pattern that closest to where she currently lives. But here is where things go a little bit south. The game proceeds to ask her, "Where do you live now?" And she only gets two options. She gets North America or elsewhere. Many hypotheses come to my mind when thinking why they took this approach and why they're talking about elsewhere when referring to the rest of the globe. Maybe North America is the target audience for the game, but it's still sort of rude. But okay, Isabel proceeds and clicks elsewhere. Timmy proceeds and makes a little joke about it, and where he says, "Seems a lot like a lot of folks are from elsewhere." The game itself recognizes that not all of players are from North America, and there are a lot of players out there. So I still don't understand why they took this approach, but that's not all. Timmy wants to narrow down where she lives, and three options come up: Asia, Europe, and again, elsewhere. Insane. But she still picks elsewhere. Yet the dialogue keeps going. Still elsewhere, huh? Finally, behind all these interactions, Isabel finally found South America. The big problem here is that she's already upset. She's feeling weird, confused. She questions herself. Should I start all over again and maybe just choose North America and be done with it? Or if I choose South America, I'm gonna miss out on the seasons. I don't understand, she says. With Latinos playing a significant role in global gaming industry, from elsewhere with love aims to generate a conversation about the power of development and to challenge the development teams to stop or avoid falling to those cheap and easy stereotypes about us. It's also a way to celebrate. We want to stand out the people who took the time and understand and appreciate the things and the diversity that you can find in this side of the globe. And now that I mentioned the word love, there is one particular UX pillar that is pretty important, and that's emotion. Game UX, it's all about how players feel, behave, how they think, how they remember our game. And motivation, immersion, and emotion are pretty important. That last one being very important because actually humans are moved to action only by emotion. Emotion is the biological system that moves us and pushes us into movement. Taking that into account, emotion inspires action, and action inspires emotion. So let's go back and see how this relates to the story of Isabel. Everything started with happiness, new console, new game. But then things turned down and new feelings starting to arise, new sensations, new emotions, like anger, like sadness also. You can even We can even identify powerless and disillusionment about what was happening, about her experience, and almost falling back into anger. She felt stressed. All this, and she hasn't even played the game. We might think she must be too picky. Still, Animal Crossing is one of the best games out there, and a lot of comments can pop up. And even at some point, she's the one who's gonna be missing out. And that right there is the problem. Isabel is missing out on an outstanding, beautiful, well-paced gaming experience. And if you think, and if we go back and think about it, was it her fault? It was not her fault. She's not a computer. She did not process math calculations insanely complicated to understand and how to process and how to act. That's not how we work. Emotion clearly influences our minds and guides our behavior. Isabel just had an emotional response, and based on what happened and based on who she is. And emotional responses impact players' appreciation of our games, even if the issue the player faced has nothing to do with the gameplay itself. As game UI designers, we work with products that convey emotion. And in video games, like the feeling of use and the pleasure of use is not a nice to have. It's mandatory. So let's remember this. People don't use video games, they form relationships with them, and those relationships can be deeply influenced by emotion the game evokes. And you know who has emotions? Latinos and Latinas. Even people say that we might be too emotional. And you know what they love? They love video games. Accordingly to recently studies, there are 650 million people in Latin America, 411 million with access to internet, and 234 who are actually active gamers. That's an insane amount of people. Even just in the United States, 72% of US Hispanics identify as gamers. We're talking about that they are the group that are most gamers in the USA. So taking that into account, and if we stop and we recognize that the entertainment industry has a power to create narratives and define cultural characteristics, not only in America, but around the whole world, like from Latinos and Latinas and from other ethnicities and minorities. Video games as part of the entertainment industry, we do have the opportunity to reshape those misperceptions and reverse the damage that has been done by the media. So let's don't fall for easy, cheap stereotypes. Instead, let those stereotypes fall. Once we do this, our video games will be at the top of the mountain and revenue will come. It's all about respect. Let's take the time and the appreciation to represent the people the right way. Strive to prove that a player-centered design approach is a win-win situation for both stakeholders and for developers. Players will get engaged and enjoy our games. So let's check out some examples of what we have been talking about. Elsewhere environment. Quick disclaimer, as well as with Animal Crossing, this is not an attack to them, to the developers, it's just a message about how we want to shape this industry. To begin with this section, I would like to show you three pictures. First one from Far Cry 2 that takes place on an African country. Far Cry 3 that takes place on an trophic Asian Pacific archipelago. And Far Cry 6 that takes place in the island of Jara. That is a clear and direct comparison of Cuba in Latin America. We can all tell from these pictures that the pleasants look and feel alike. It's been more than 10 years between Far Cry 2 and Far Cry 6. But still, you can feel like the stereotype a little bit of the environment. Rusty cars, untamed grass, houses in the middle of the desert, and dirt roads everywhere. This is a stereotype that seems that third world countries have of us third world countries. Even in Far Cry 6, after the epilogue, you find quotes of the players as the revolution never ends, or once guerrilla, always guerrilla, only implying that gun conflict will never end and that Latin America is just doomed to violent conflict. But if we think about Uncharted 3, when Nathan Drake goes to Cartagena, Colombia, does that happen? It does not. The space is recreated with a proper mix of informal markets and the colloquial architecture. We even see the decayed Renault 4 on the streets, that it was the most popular car here in Colombia in the 70s. with fruit baskets on the streets, and we even heard NPCs talking with the corresponding accent. They even say mangostino, that it's a very popular fruit here in Colombia. It was insane to hear that. And how to forget the white Remax chairs? That's a very representative thing in here. It all portrays Cartagena by representing respectfully Colombian city things. This carefully crafted chapter in Uncharted gives players what is known as presence. And presence is experience when players are completely immersed within the game world, and this has been found like to have a huge positive impact on players' enjoyment. What about characters from elsewhere? We could have an entire talk about this, but we're just gonna go with the first one. Here is a meme that was very popular right here, and which was translated to English. And you can see what we mean. And I just want to update it really quick. Carla from Dead Island 2. She's a Spanish American woman, and she was a stunt woman before the zombie apocalypse hit. Her backstory only mentions barely her cousin. That's it. Beyond that, all there is to Carla's character is an insane amount of Spanish curse words and the fact that she seems to be an adrenaline junkie. And if you ask me, that sounds a little bit too familiar. Even if she's voiced by a Colombian American actress, she uses very particular words only from Mexico. You can see it on the text from the UI screen. This character leaves us a weird taste on our mouths. She's a strong Latina, but that's all she is. So what can we consider a good representation? Let's take the example of Kiko from Papo y Yo. Kiko is a South American boy who hides from his alcoholic father. He enters this dream state where everything looks alike like a favela. In there, he meets Monster. He's addicted to poisonous frogs that will make him really aggressive. But we might think favelas, Brazil, maybe we're just gonna be running through the roofs, gun blazing, and killing the monster. Nope. Actually, we don't get any violence from Kiko. We're shown a deep emotional story about a Latino boy who has to deal with an extremely traumatic experience. So the game proves that there is no need to add harmful Latinx stereotypes just for the sake of it. It can still create intense and impactful narrative experiences. I speak as a Latino, but this isn't just about us, it's about everybody. As UX designers, we know emotion is what drives our players. During last week's Game Awards, we had the opportunity to hear the speech of Nicolas Doucet from the director of Astrobot, Game Winner, where he mentioned the amount of generosity the team gave, always putting the user first. And if you think about it, that's what UX is all about. Our players, all of them, should come first. Treating them with respect should always be our number one priority. Doing this, the industry will only grow. If your team or teams are creating a character from a specific part of the globe, go ahead. We're thankful that you have us in mind. But treat them with respect and use a center design approach to do this. Shout out to Isabel Londoño, the narrative designer from the beginning. She's actually a real person. The story I told was true. She's been supporting me through all these years. This year I became also one number of the people who got laid off by the state of the industry. But she gives me hope, and finally we'll get out of this. So please never forget that video games are an autotelic activity. Our players use their spare time, their free time, just because they want to play our game. They can't do anything else. However, they still decided to play our game. So let's treat them with respect and deserve, because working in this industry is actually a privilege.